All right. Hello and welcome back to this week's live stream. I'm Gordon Morse, your natural English coach, and I'm here once again to answer your questions. So, our first question of today is, I can't make the same ah sound that native speakers do, like in clap or hand. How do I make that sound more naturally? So, there's an important difference between ah, the Japanese ah sound, and the English open a sound. There are many different ways that the letter a is pronounced depending on which word it's in English. So with Japanese, it's just ah, right? But in English, there are 6 or 7 or even more different ways that an A can be pronounced depending on what letters are in front of it or behind it or what kind of words that it's used in. So for example, the ah sound, whether it be ah by itself or as sa, ta, da, etc., are used for different A sounds when we're using words from English. So for example, maza, ah, you hear that ah. However, the English word, the natural pronunciation is mother, See how they're totally different sounds actually. Za versus maza and mother, right? Or, of course, a word that's very common, heart, hato, hato. But in English, we say heart. It is a little bit deeper, and the sound is a little bit more rounded. And of course, we have anguri. But in English, we say angry. Now, the A of angry is the A that we want to practice today. That's what I call open A. So this is a chart of the different phonemes of English. A phoneme is basically just a sound, a singular sound that you make when you are speaking language. You don't have to worry about all the weird symbols on this chart. This is basically used for linguists and other people. But basically, I want to show you that these are two separate sounds. The yellow circle you see there is the Japanese sound. It's not always this because not only are there many different ways of saying the letter A or using the sound ah, it also depends on what accent you have or what region you're from, because the way that I say A in some words might be different than the way someone else, another English speaker, says A, which makes it a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, but that's how it is. The important part is that there really isn't any version of English that uses the same sound that the Japanese system does. So with the Japanese sound, the sound is ah, so it's a little bit deeper than it needs to be. And the natural English sound for open A is the blue circle you see all the way to the left there. Apple, right? Apple. So the trick to making a good, strong open A sound. The first is that your tongue should come forward in your mouth. So see how the tongue is right behind my front teeth. Your tongue should be pushed forward like that. The second is that when you're making the sound, the corners of your mouth will go outwards. Angry. So remember that when you're making this sound, tongue forward, mouth wide. Try and keep that in mind. So then you'll be able to say words like hand, angry, Instagram, or can't. Those are all good examples of the open A in natural English. Also notice that the word Instagram has two A's, however, they both are different sounds. The second A is our open A sound, am, while the first A is more of what we call a schwa sound, which means that it is not stressed. So, Instagram. All right, our second question of the day. I invited a friend to a bar, but he said that cafes were more his kind of thing. What does that phrase mean? So, my kind of thing means something that you like more than other similar things. So a similar phrase you will also hear is, this is more my speed, or this is more my jam. Those are a little bit more slang phrases than my kind of thing, but you will hear them all in the same meaning and the same context. So the phrase, this is more my thing, or that isn't my thing, is used to compare things you like with other people's likes. You can also use this is not my kind of thing, or this isn't my kind of thing, if you want to express the negative version of this. So here are a couple of examples to kind of show you how this is used. So someone might ask you, do you like going to the beach in the summer? And then you might reply, no, that's not my kind of thing. I prefer hiking up mountains. So see how not my kind of thing is used to show that you don't agree with this, or that you have a different opinion, and then you show what the different opinion is. That's not my kind of thing. It's a little more interesting and it's more casual than saying, no, I don't like it, right? That's very basic. This is more natural English. Or another example is, I don't mind roulette, but blackjack is more my kind of thing at a casino. It means like the thing that you like the best, right? Out of all the options. All right, question 3. A friend told me I wasn't saying sing correctly. She heard sink instead. How do I make the difference clearer when I speak? So the phonemes, we use that word from the question 1. The sounds or the phonemes G, G, Ng, N, and Ng are 3 separate sounds in English that are very hard to tell apart sometimes. It's very difficult to hear the difference clearly, even if you are a native speaker. So compare these 3 words. Pig, pig. You can hear the strong G sound on the end of that. Pin, pin, and then ping, ping. So if you watched my mouth closely between pin and ping, you see that the N sound is closer to the front of the mouth. Pin, pin. My tongue is like almost between my teeth. But with a sound, ping, ping, my tongue is further back. So I like to think of the difference as the middle of the tongue versus the back of the tongue. Pin is in the middle of the tongue, and ping is in the back of the tongue. That's where you feel the air moving. So again, here's this big chart of sounds. And this is just to show you where these 3 sounds are in relation to each other. So we have the G, pig, pig, in the green all the way to the right. And then the most important difference is between the N and the NG sound. The N sound, pin, is the blue circle, pin, also in funny or knife. However, the NG sound is shown by the letter that has the little tail, the little loop at the end of the N, the bottom of it. That's ng, ng. N versus ng. So that final G sound happens when you release the sound and your tongue like pops back up in your mouth. So if you try it, you go ng, 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 ng. See, you hear that little pop right when I finish saying the sound? That's where the G sound comes from. I'm not trying to make the G separately, it just happens when I finish the sound. So here are some words that are important to get this sound right, or else they'll sound like each other. These are minimal pairs. So we have sink and sing. Sink and sing. Also, think and thing. Think and thing. Sank and sang. Sank, sang. And we have a monk, like a person, a monk who prays, and among us. A monk, among. Question 4. When you're talking on the phone and the other person is talking too fast, how do you ask them to repeat something? So this is tricky because I think that talking with people on the phone, if you're a non-native speaker, can be even more difficult than talking to someone in person, because there are many different things that you cannot hear or you cannot see when you're talking on the phone. Especially if you're talking, on a traditional phone, you can't see the other person. And this actually makes you lose a lot of information, because when you're talking face to face, you can see the other person's body movements, so you can understand maybe a little bit of information about their mood or their tone. Also, you can see their face. So part of communication is being able to see the person talking. You might know that when people are doing lip reading, it's a very big part of sign language and also lip reading to be able to see the person's face and the movements that they're doing. And this also comes into play when you're just talking normally. It's not just about the words, it's about what you're seeing. So also with a phone, instead of, when you're talking directly to someone, you can hear all of the sound that they're making, even the little subtle sounds that are like underneath the main sound. When you're hearing someone on a phone, the sound is converted to electric signals, and then reconverted into sound waves, then you hear them, right? So there are certain small, subtle sounds that get lost when that happens. So it's just harder to hear people. So if you're talking on the phone and someone says something that you don't understand, or you want them to say it again, it is okay to kind of interrupt them to say, sorry, say again, or sorry, what was that? As long as it's quick, right? And if you wait for them to kind of take a pause or to take a breath, that's a good time to use these phrases. Sorry, say again, or sorry, what was that? Because you want to be able to hear what they said and not have them just keep talking and talking, right? Or you can wait until they finish speaking, and then after they finish speaking, you can say, sorry, can you repeat that? Or, sorry, I didn't catch that last part, or I didn't catch that first part. Those are all very natural ways of asking someone to repeat themselves. Another thing you can mention is that the connection's not very good. Sometimes when you're talking on the phone, maybe you or the other person has bad signal, right? And their voice keeps going on and off, and you can't hear very well because of the bad signal. In that case, you can say the connection's not very good. Another way that can help is if you just can't understand what the person is saying, especially like one word you can't understand, you can ask them, would you mind spelling that out? So for example, if they say a name of somebody and you just can't understand that name, you can say, "Would you mind spelling that out?" And they will give you the letters, and that will help you understand. All right, question 5. I don't understand many phrases my coworkers use around the office. How can I learn more and practice using them? So, when native speakers talk to each other, they often speak very quickly, and we use shortcut languages. This happens in every language, right? When you're comfortable talking to somebody, you use casual speech, and your speech sometimes you leave words out when you both know the context of what you're talking about. So, for example, missing words or contractions. Contractions is like I cannot to I can't. And unfinished sentences. All of these are very, very common in casual, natural speech. So, when you hear something that you don't understand, especially in a workplace, it's really useful to have somebody that you trust and you feel comfortable going to and saying, "Hey, can you explain this to me? I didn't understand that. Can you please explain this word, or can you explain this phrase?" Stuff like that. It's always very, very helpful to have someone that you trust like that. For me too, I have several people that when I hear Japanese that I don't understand, I will ask them, "Hey, what does this mean? How do I use this?" You know, learning language is all about having communication and connection with other people. So if you're in a conversation at work, as in the conversation includes yourself, then when you are listening, pay attention to the meaning of someone's speech, not the individual words. I've said this before. If you try to hear every single word the person is saying, you're going to get lost very easily. The main thing is that someone is trying to tell you something that has meaning. Try to understand the meaning and focus on the meaning without worrying about all the little words that they use. Outside of a conversation, for example, if you are sitting next to someone or you're standing next to somebody who's having a conversation, try to just listen to what they're saying, and then you can also write down certain words that you hear, and then you can check them later, just as a way of learning more vocabulary and also being better at, you increase your listening skill like that. You get better at listening. And finally, a very useful tip is that if you don't understand what they say, just try to read the mood and respond based on that mood. I myself, when I was living in Japan, was able to talk for some people for hours just because I would say "そうですね" or "そうか, そうですね." That's basically all I said, because I would try to see what the person's mood was. You know, did he want to just talk about himself? You know, was he trying to explain something? And even if I didn't understand a lot of what the person said, they still feel like they're having a conversation with me, and I feel like I am participating in that conversation with just very few words on my end. So communication doesn't always have to be you say an equal number of words as the other person. Communication is many, many, many different things, and sometimes communication is just showing the other person that you understand or that you're trying to listen to them. All right, as always, I have a question for you, and I recommend you answer this question yourself and record your voice so that later on you can practice by listening and correcting your errors, recording again, and so on. That's how you get better at both speaking and pronunciation. So my question for you this week is, what's your kind of thing for food or movies or hobbies? When you're talking to someone about these things, what is it that says, "Oh, that's my thing, that's my kind of thing," or "That's not my kind of thing"? All right, as always, thanks for watching. If you learned something from this, please feel free to like or comment or subscribe to the channel. because all those things help me make more content to put out in the future. Also, if you ever have a question about what I'm saying, or you want me to correct your English, feel free to leave a comment. On the live streams, I will see your comment immediately and be able to respond right away. But if you leave a comment on one of my previous videos, I will still see it and will be able to answer or correct your English, however you like. Also, if you're interested in learning where your natural English level is, I recommend going to the website that you see down in the corner there, and you get a free natural English assessment test that I will check for you and send back to you directly. All right, so that's it for this week. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time.